So good morning. First, I'm trying to see whether anything is working in this country. There you go. I'm talking Sun City as a country. 'Cause, it takes 2 hours here. It's the same as Cape Town. So it's a different country. I see my Swati brother here. I was in Swaziland on Monday for the very important matter of selecting the next wife. And they cannot just arrive dressed up, because if they dressed up, you can't see what you're buying. That's what I like about Swaziland. They arrive with the goods on show. This is what you get for your money's worth. My name is Thebe, Ikalafeng. I think many of you love Coca-Cola. Anybody has Coca-Cola? I mean, last night was a big night, so we would have had Coca-Cola for Slama, right? So everybody loves Coke, right? We do love Coke. I mean, growing up in a township, when you drink Coca-Cola, when you're done, you say, Botli Maliam. It's like, makes you feel like, you own it. It's your thing, right? You paid for it for your money. But in 1886, when everybody at Coca-Cola was saying things go better with Coca-Cola, they weren't quite going so well for the rest of us. Because in 1883, in Berlin, a couple of white guys, I'm so glad the white people are not here, we can talk about them. Some of the things they've done. So if anybody saw, don't worry about these people who look white, they're not white, they're using bleach. Because it's an in thing now, you must use that thing and just go from black to white in a minute. So in 1883, they sat around in Berlin, and they were at the Berlin conference, and they were discussing about your continent. They said, sure, I want to get that piece, I want to get that piece, I want to go that piece. And as they were doing that, and then they arrived in the land, and I think Jomo Kenyatta saw them. Because Kenyatta said, when the missionaries arrived in Africa, they taught us how to pray with our eyes closed. When we opened our eyes, they had the land in their hands, and we had the Bible in our hands. That's why we love church. I mean, you've seen us. We got cell groups. We go to church every day. After work, we pray before food, because that's all we got. All right, and some of them, when they're walking around the continent, they're looking for places. They say, "I need to get a piece of this, a piece of that." And then poor Madonna goes to Malawi. Anybody from Malawi here? Poor Madonna goes to Malawi, but before she got to Malawi, she was thinking about South Africa. And they said, "Stay away from South Africa. Oprah's got that one." Said, that one is Oprah's little piece of land. You find something else, because that one is taken. And then they have the audacity, when they finish, they say, the woes of Africa. What a nightmare of a country, of a continent. And when they're talking about our continent like that, then they go out and make beautiful movies about us, right? And that's why, like Dave Schilling says, these movies, Tarzan, The Lion King, and all those, he said the DNA of the character is the idea that a clever white guy is going to come to this dark continent and with his own brand of clearly delineated, culturally specific morality, make it part of who we are. And then, of course, things change. Then they come with Black Panther. And all them darkies, you saw them all dressing up to go to the movies, to Black Panther. And then Professor Mda says, this generation, they're so desperate for narratives that are going to validate them and give them some modicum of humanity and adopt some kind of American-invented idea of Africa. A fantasy that makes them as heroes and scientists. While they're doing that, they call you names. This is that shithole continent. And they're dropping buckets of money here. And they say, we don't want you to create anything. You just want to sit with your heads open. Sort of what the government does with SASA. 70% of the country is just sitting like this. They say, don't work. Don't create. Don't do anything special. And they say, at the end they say, and you are so corrupt. That's what they say about our continent. They're like, this continent is interesting because this continent always fires. People are hungry. People are poor. They kill each other. This continent is a problem. And they said, that bloody Zimbabwe, or that bloody Africa. Because to them, whatever happens in Zimbabwe is Africa. What happens in Swaziland is Africa. What happens in South Africa is Africa. But we know a little bit about them as well. They ain't as fine as they think. Are they? We have a story about every single one of them, whatever they say about us. I'm not in your way. But folks, I have no clue what you were expecting. As Miriam Makeba says, the conqueror writes the history. They come, they conquer, and they write. You can't expect the people who've come to conquer you to say nice things about you. You need to say their own stories about yourself. So the stories about Africa are not created and told by Africans. And what we know for certain is that 99% of what they say about us is not true. It's just wrong. Absolutely wrong. So how do you go about debunking some of these issues, And you can narrow it down to South Africa as well. You can't say things about townships or things about suburbs unless you've been there. You can't base all your assumptions about what happens in the Northwest based on what you read on some review. I mean, before I went to Somalia, I was trying to think, I said, Somalia, do I go to Hargeisa, do I go to Mogadishu? My friend Lazarus in Namibia says, I will have no respect for you if you don't go to Mogadishu. I'm like, Lazarus, let me do a travel advisory. Let me see what they say. I read the travel advisory. They say, stay away. They say there's bombs dropping every second. I said, what time are they dropping? They say, anytime. I said to my travel agent, can I please go to Mogadishu? I want to be there to wait for... Do you know the way we went to Sandton when the Americans told us that there's going to be some bombings? And remember what we did? We all said, I want to be there when they come and invade us. So I was there as well. I was in Mogadishu to see what happens there. But I did more than that. I figured, I need to travel the continent a little bit. So I'll tell you a little bit about, just 1 or 2 minutes, about my travels in the continent. And when I travel, and Lynette spoke about it, having been to every country, when we were speaking with Lindola earlier, I said, Lindola, the mistake I did when I was in corporate is arrive in the morning, straight into a meeting, and I leave in the evening, straight back to South Africa. And but that's not how you travel. And if we're going to build a tourism product, imagine the people just come here for business tourism. They just come in, straight to a conference, and they leave. You want them to come here, Sun City. You say, hey, there's Pilanesberg next door. Please extend your weekend and do Pilanesberg. Sorry, I'm pulling this, it's pulling me. And then go to Pilanesberg next door, enjoy the nature of Africa. He says, but while you are here on the way out, go to Sandton and go leave some money. Before you leave this. And on the way out, please get into the Gautrain train. Because what you're doing is you're expanding the experience about the country, about the city, instead of doing what we do, most of us. I'm sure some of you are doing the same. I'm sure most of you, the biggest entertainment you've done, exploration you've done is last night. But year after, you're going straight back to your different cities and some to your different countries. So no, I didn't do that. As you can imagine. I skydived. I ate everywhere. I did silverback trekking in Virungus from Uganda to Rwanda. I climbed Kilimanjaro. I climbed Kilimanjaro with Jerry. Actually, my first time, Jerry was our leader. So I know some people are looking at Jerry. They says, which Jerry? The Jerry that was here, he was leading the expedition. And my brother Mzimba here. Mzimba, sorry. I was talking to Mzimba. My mind is all Swazi this week. I have memories, I have visions. So I apologize, Mzimba. I won't tell you stories on the mountains. I won't tell you stories. But so I did everything you can think of. I mean, also interesting, if you can see the guy in the middle there, I'm standing with the soldier. So I arrived in Mogadishu, and I want to get to see the only church which has been destroyed like 20, 30 years ago. And as I get into the church, and as I get there, there's security. You can't go in because 99% is Islam and 0.001 is Christianity, and the only Christianity thing they tore it to the ground. So I say to the guy, I want to go there. He says, where? I said, there, the church. He says, no, it's protected area. But then he looks at me, he says, where are you from? I said, South Africa. I said, passport. He's like, Kimberley, ne? I swear to goodness. I said, how do you know that? He says, you speak Tswana, right? I said, how do you know that? He says, my cousin lives there. So it's interesting because so now he says, oh, you're my brother, please, go see the church. Because you see, because when you get to places, we know one thing about our continent, about our country specifically, that the people are the way to the country and to the continent. So they are the biggest product that we have in this continent. Of course, as Jane Adu said at a forum we hosted in 2010, he says China has an agenda for Africa, America has an agenda for Africa, India has an agenda for Africa, everybody's got an agenda for Africa. Only Africans don't have an agenda for Africa. So our job is to have an agenda for what we're going to do for this country, for this continent, not being imposed on what we need to do. Because remember what happens with aid, folks. When aid, it comes with conditions, and loans, they come with conditions. They say, we will give you the loans, but you will do things this way. Because they've got their agenda, and they want to implement it through you. And they're using the money to hold you ransom. So how are we going to fix this? So we need to change a little bit about how we approach things. Because we have this incredible continent that is so rich. How are we going to do that? I think this is how we're going to do it. First, we need to reclaim our identity. We need to reclaim our identity. I mean, everybody's talking about Africa, your time is now, but I'm not sure they know what they're talking about. Because we are no longer that country which was measured about who owns us. We are the country that is defined by the 54, 55 different cultures that define who we are. We are the country where if you go to a place like a Ghana, everybody's got a day name. And we have our own different names. I learned something interesting about my favorite place for the week, Swaziland. That, you know, King Sobhuza had 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, who's counting, wives. And then, you know, if you have 80 wives, it's impossible. I'm just speaking maybe from my own personal experience. To account for the children. Somebody here or there should be helping you along. But us as Africans, we have a way of dealing with these things. And I learned that His Majesty had a beautiful way of dealing with this. And His Majesty said, if I took out Inkomo, the cattle for this woman, and this woman gives birth to a child, that's our child. That's how us Africans do things. It is our identity. It is who we are. We do things our own way. I love that. I love the fact that you go to a country. I went with Lynette to Ethiopia, that it's a country that's got its own religion, its own language, its own calendar, its own time, its own food. They do things their own way. They were not colonized. They withheld the Italians when they came there to try and colonize them. I love the fact that part of taking your identity, claiming your identity, is a brand like Investec. And I took this picture in Heathrow many years ago when I used to go to Europe. I don't go there anymore. So even if I'm there, you see me, I'm not there. I'm just passing through. You know, when they say about the ad, and ask the marketing director, why do you have zebras everywhere? He says, I want people to be able to say, this company comes from Africa. I don't want them to struggle with that. And I want to be proud about that. And I know a lot of us, you know, when you're coming up with products. So when I walked into the palace, I remember, I came back to South Africa in 94, and the palace was 2 years old. It was the Mecca. It was the Mecca of tourism in the continent. It was the ultimate in hospitality, in products. And remember, that's where they used to host the most magnificent Miss World, Miss everything else. But what was so beautiful about it, it was this romanticized idea of an African palace. Because you can't put that palace in Manhattan. It's just not going to work. But it will work here. Because what Saul did so visionarily, beautifully, is to reimagine the African excellence and put it here in our own continent. And says that is what is going to distinguish us. Because a lot of us are trying to run away from that which makes us who we are. we need to reclaim our identity. That's why I love it when SAB says it is the SA in SAB that makes us who we are. And we must be proud of that. And that's why we should be proud of products that a young man, Tepo, names a gin called Tepo Jeans, and a whole lot of us. And when Tepo launched this, by the way, you should have seen us, the blacks. So I'm going to speak about the blacks first because I know them very well, my people. When Tepo launched the jeans, they said, sorry, Tepo, how much are the jeans? Tepo says 499. They're like, sorry. I would rather pay $3,000 for a Dolce & Gabbana. I can't pay 499 for a jean named Tepo, and after a guy I grew up with in Tsakane. They're like, how dare you, the nerve to come up and charge me that much? And then guess what happened? That young lady that the Queen kicked out, Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle came through. I mean, the Queen had only one job before she died. She says, before I kick the bucket, I must get rid of this one. You saw, I think she died the day after or a week later. I can't remember. But Markle came to Africa and went to Tepo and says, Tepo, I want some Tepo jeans. For me and for Archie. And they took a picture and they posted it on Sunday Times. Who called Tepo as soon as the picture was out? All the darkies. Tepo, where are the jeans? Tepo says, we are sold out. What do you mean you sold out? Who bought them? We are here, Tepo. How much are they? Tepo says 2,000. Tepo, I don't care. I just want a Tepo jean now. Because somebody validated us. We don't need some validation. We need to accept who we are and reclaim our identity. For that reason, that Dangote is so successful. He is Dangote everywhere. The part of reclaiming identity is also reclaiming some of the beautiful stories about who we are. The Battle of Isandlwana, which is what makes us who we are. No, Battle of Isandlwana, or the Battle of Adwa, when on 1st of March, over 150 years or so ago, when the Italians sent them back. Because these stories we don't celebrate. Many of us know Julius Caesar very well, and he never existed, by the way. We know Julius Caesar so well. I'm not going to talk about Jesus because I wasn't there. I'm just going to go with the theory. But if you can tell them about the stories we can deal with, about the Battle of Isandlwana or the Battle of Adwa, none of us know that. It is not in your curriculum because, we change curriculum every week with every minister. So they don't have time to update the textbooks. That's why part of claiming your identity is what I love about Standard Bank when they say, they call us Africa, we call it home. So you must accept who you are. The second part, the thing we need to do, we need to reclaim our culture. Just reclaim our culture. Why do we have to go to Pythagoras' theorem and to go to Sophocles and all those people? Sounds like a disease. Some of those Greek mythology heroes. We should just go to Credo. Just go sit with Credo, because when we are with Credo, people say, my Credo Kimuloi. He's a witch, that one. But they are very happy to sit next to those crazy guys who go to Cambridge, and they don't call them Baloi. Who's the ones there with the E equals to MC squared, with the hair just in all over the place? He never used to wash. I forget his name. Einstein, yeah. They know Einstein very well. But when you bring up Credo, they're like, sorry, Thebe, sorry. This is serious business now. The black people can relate to this guy. They can relate to Mfano Mfishani. I know many of us have never ever seen him in real life, but if they say, I will call him. Where I grew up in Kimberley, they even used to give you rough salt. And they said, Thebe, just do this in the gate. Just do this something. because he's gonna, you know. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? And I know what some of you do as well. Some of you who grew up like me, poor like me, I know exactly what you did. You used to take your beds and put bricks, right? So that no fish and angafiki on top of your bed, right? What we should do is be inspired by that rather than try to go against it. We should do what my namesake from Kimberley did. Obviously, everybody knows that Kimberley is the source of civilization in Africa. So I'm not going to overemphasize all that, but I'm just going to have you guys accept the fact that Thebe comes from my neighborhood, and I think all the good people are called Thebe, but we'll go with this one. Thebe's new range, named after all the African cultures. Exquisite. Everybody wears them all over the world. That's part of accepting your culture. It's accepting that if you are Kenyan, don't wait for Louis Vuitton to put you on the ramp for you to say that you're an excellent brand. Don't wait if you're Ndrebele like Matu, Ndrebele Baras in front here, Pet and Mabena and Mahlangu. Like a Swaziland is Dlamini. And then in Kwandebele is Mahlangu. Mahlangu are the royalties, right? Mabena, I think, are the juniors. No, it's just like the Simelanis in Swaziland. The Simelanis are junior to the Dlaminis, you know. And they just accepting your culture is also understanding when you have to build a stadia, be inspired by the calabash, because the calabash is used for sharing. So it's understanding all that. It's understanding that you can look at your own culture, your tribal culture, and say, how do we inspire by that without denigrating the culture? We need to take back our narrative. We need to take back our story of who we are, because you cannot sing African music in proper English. So you need to tell the story in your own way. And that's why we're telling the story in such beautiful ways with Amapiano. It's who we are. Everybody's dancing to Amapiano. Nobody says, can you add a little bit of Latin to it, please? They all just want to do what we do with our music, because we've accepted who we are, and we realize that part of what we need to do is to accept who we are and tell our story. Tell our story in any particular way. Tell our story like the Nigerians do. You guys, who likes Nigerian movies? Look at the liars, their hands are down. Because you know the liars among us who say they don't like Nigerian movies, the liars among us, they're like, I can't watch Nigerian movies. What kind of a movie is this which does not have a plot? I mean, how do you produce a movie in a day? But let me tell you, if you catch any of the liars at home when there are no visitors, why do you love them? Because the stories are about witchcraft, about stealing somebody's wife, about everything that is wrong in society. It's our stories. That's why we love them and we can relate to the stories, right? That's why we run all the way to Afrochella, because we want to celebrate our cultures. That's why Burna Boy can close out Madison Square and do it in a Nigerian way, singing Nigerian music, because he's accepted the culture of who we are. Doesn't have to dilute. We need to reclaim our dignity. Part of reclaiming our dignity is not to allow anybody to speak ill of us. We just send EFF to deal with them. It's not to let anybody remind us of what they did to us and say that this is fashion. It's not to allow anybody to say, if we use their product, we will be whiter or blacker, whatever it is. Folks, this is who we are. Reclaiming our dignity is also what Thabo Mbeki did, and says, we need to bring Sarki back. Sarki is not a freak. Sarki is not a freak. If Sarki is a freak, Kim Kardashian would not be doing this all week, trying to look like our Sarki. Kim would not want to look like our sisters look every day. We take that, we use it to create the products. And that's how the Eva jeans came. Because my friend Mark Joubert was the chief marketing officer at Levi. Says, Thebe, we put all the black women in a room. We say, why are you guys not buying Levi jeans? And they're like, the jeans do not go the distance. They just come up to here and never go around Kilimanjaro. So they loosened the jeans and they called them Eva. And we were there, our sisters were in line to buy. And then they discovered it's not black women, it's all women. All women have the heritage that they want to celebrate. Part of what you need to do is to think local and act global. Because what did they teach you at business school? They say you must think global. Do you know why they say that? Because they want you to implement their ideas here. You need to say, if I'm this property, how do I remeasure my property for the world? Not how do I remeasure the world's properties for Africa. They don't come to Africa to find themselves. They come to Africa to experience us. So what we do, we need to do just that. We need to reclaim our ideas. Just to take our ideas. You know, when I was doing my LLM in IP, I learned something interesting. That only 2% of the brands the trademarks that are registered in the world come from Africa. Because the Chinese and the Americans and the British, they register the trademarks. We are just sitting here, we're like, they are going to steal our ideas again. You don't own it until you register it. That's how IP works. Don't tell me that it's been with you since the beginning of time. It's with you since the beginning of registration. But sometimes if you're rooibos, you can claim what we call GI and IP, which is this tea can only come from here. That's when you claim your ideas, right? Or if Makosa, they steal your socks. If you're at Zara, you're like, Zara, my socks, please. Or you are in Ethiopia, like the coffee can only come from here. Don't come with stories, you Mr. Starbucks, because they fought for years. So moving forward, we need to take all those ideas and to stop blaming everybody for our problems, because we're very good at bitching and whining. It's our thing. We like to beg, can you please borrow us? And we even posted, we went to Europe to go get loans, or China gave us $500 million during the BRICS. We love that, and we think that's an accomplishment. We need to stop borrowing, because everything you borrow comes at a cost. They will do to you what they did in Zambia. In Zambia, they said, we are here to collect our airport as the Chinese. And the Zambian says, but it's a loan. They're like, we will repossess the airport. You will go back to your tires, roll the tires to go back to where you come from. If you borrow money, what you need to do is to build great brands. And part of branding is to start first with the nation brand. You first need to start with the nation brand, because that's what houses us. Because we are in South Africa, and being in South Africa, whether we like it or not, the world forms an opinion about us every day. We know that anyway. You know that every day, right? Whether it's through the media, whether it's through meeting with us, or whether it's their own experiences, or whether it's just their own preconceived ideas. So our job is to change, is to build our brand, so that we don't wait for somebody to say, Africa rising. Because, we like that, and all of us now, that becomes part of our, we need an Africa rising strategy, guys. We are in Africa. Africa is not rising, it's always been at the top. You're the one who's been at the bottom. So we are the ones who should be rising to meet Africa. We can see what's happening, folks. The economy, the GDPs are going up, the urbanization is going up, and my favorite about us, which I know, we are not going to let anybody down. We are making babies. We are making babies, and we are fine with it. That's us. And we are very, 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 very young. We are youthful and we are useful. That's us. 60% of us, 60% of us are under the age of 25. So if you don't fall in the range, please, it is your problem. They say you are only as young as the one that you are. Sorry, move on. It's used to, of course, we came from a time when there were fewer coups and all those and fewer. But of course, now, the last couple of weeks, things are a bit haywire. But part of building our brand is understanding that a nation is a brand simply because you compete for a share of the wallet. If you understood that, because you see, if South Africa is not a great country to come to, nobody's going to come to your property. Nobody's come to use your cars. Nobody's going to use your services. You do not have a tourism business without South Africa. Because they can't skip South Africa and come to Sun City. How are they going to do that? They first come to South Africa, brand South Africa. Our job is to contribute to building a great South Africa. I'm not talking about logos, because I know we love logos. Make the logo bigger. We're like, nobody buys logos. I love this definition of branding. It says it's about highlighting, encouraging, reinforcing, communicating, and aligning the place's attributes to present a place in a way that helps it reach its defined strategic goals. I'm sure you're tired of seeing all the stats about the best countries to invest in, but you know we are slipping. You know we are slipping in terms of the top countries to invest in. Tourism, we're getting back. Actually, we're back, right? We're back, right? So we're back in tourism. We're back, but still Egypt is still clapping us, but we're back. But we're back in terms of we're getting the numbers that we used to have in the past. And what's also beautiful, you can see why people would leave the country. They would leave the country because they want to go study somewhere else, go work somewhere else. But now with tourism back and the country in a good position, people would want to stay here. South Africa was the one country where nobody ever wanted to leave the country, except those who were in Australia and those who are in New Zealand and those who are in Canada. But they're all trying to come back, but the exchange rate is the problem. But now, black people are emigrating. Because before it used to be, oh, no, only white people are emigrating. No. The darkies are emigrating. Some of them are, there's new words, semi-migrating. Going to Cape Town. I used to think that I'm just visiting. They said, no, Thebe, your language needs to change. You are semi-migrating if you go there for weekends. It's thinking about a place holistically from tourism, imports, governance, investment, culture, and people. That's how Simon Arnold defined how you define a nation brand. It's also thinking about understanding that people attach a meaning to a country. They think about German, they say efficient, industrious, rational, quality. They think about South Africa, next subject please, Thebe, country product, and they can even associate products with countries. With us, they associate people who are doing funny things with our country. Our job is to try and change that. Because when people trust your country, they look to it for anything else. That's why India is a massive country, 1.1 billion, I don't know the number. There's so many people in India. But what India has been able to isolate in branding is to find the one thing that makes us different. Our ingenuity in the midst of all that is what makes us an incredible country to be. It's funny that ingenuity on my other country, Botswana, they say, pride, your destination. I don't agree with the line. I told them I've been to Botswana 101 times. I said, I don't understand what that line means because it sounds self-centered. Like you're talking about our pride. Tell me why I should come visit South Africa. Don't come with your pride. I also disagree with the SA tourism. I was on tourism for 10 years. So I was an SAT for 10 years. So I was deputy chair for a bit. And we know the story that Inspiring New Ways doesn't have that. I used to say it. I said to Mr. Minister Angi Toli into this. We need to change this thing. Because Inspiring New Ways, what? But when we were alive with possibilities, you could come into this country and do things because we're alive with possibilities. By Inspiring New Ways, we're almost as bad as the Nigerians, right? So just looking at me, Thebe unga pindi. The Nigerians, they came up with good people, great nation. And the people said, huh? this country. Changing your brand. It's about understanding that part of branding your country is to celebrate the 12 languages of the country. Because that's what gives us color. Like I don't understand South African advertising. So I chaired Luri for 5 years, and I fought all the time when I was at the Luris. So I was in the early days, and I changed things, and then as soon as I left, they changed them back. I said, folks, we're in Africa, we're in South Africa. Our advertising must speak to us. We must be able to relate. Just go next door to Botswana. Botswana, in the middle of a meeting, on the middle of an ad, they put in 7 Tswana words and 2 English and half silence. You know? And they do not translate. They say, that's like, that's who we are. So, you know, if you're South African, you've got 12 languages to deal with. I guess we've added 12. I know some people say, what's he talking about? It's in as well, that language. It's about finding the central idea of what South Africa means. So on the 26th of, Sonto, you better be there. On the 26th of October, I'm gonna convene a panel of people to try and redefine the new South African story. Sonto, please, diarize. So everybody knows if Sonto is not there, she can't sell tourism if she was not part of defining South Africa. Sonto, you are confirmed. Thank you so much. So we're going to define the central idea of South Africa. And you must have a central idea, I was trying to say, because we cannot be beaten by Nigeria and Egypt, folks. We used to be the #1 brand in the continent, right? But now people are finding us at the bottom of the list. We need to build great competitive tourism products, because you know some people will come to South Africa and they'll get lost. Hello, I'm in South Africa, Botswana, as Kim Kardashian when she landed here. I remember that day very well because I saw her in a bus in Botswana as we come into the airport. You know, from South Africa, when he landed in South Africa, she was confused. She thought Botswana is South Africa. I don't blame her because we don't do a good job of defining the differences. What we're trying to do, we're trying to be like other people. We can only be South African. And our job is to define that. I'm not going to deal into the tourism because I'm sure yesterday I saw there was a panel on stats. You guys are heart full of stats because we just want to go out and enjoy South Africa and sell South Africa. You know the stats. You know exactly that tourism is back. You know exactly UNW tourism is back. And you know exactly what tourism contributes, I think 5% to the GDP. I mean, tourism is everybody, and everybody's, matter of fact, I think it contributes 100% to the GDP because we are South Africa. We are the tourists of South Africa. So you can, and of course, when somebody says to travel is to discover that everyone is wrong about other countries. But I think you need to go out there and find yourself because borders are overrated. The problem that we are facing, obviously, is the problem that we're facing as a continent. It's this visas. I mean, how do you take 38 visas to travel the continent? And my favorite is my country, South Africa. Because South Africa, I remember I was sitting with Chifua, you can just close your ears, but we're sitting in Cape Town. And somebody was standing there from the from the Ministry of Tourism, was excited to tell us, we have just made Czechoslovakia visa-free to South Africa. I'm like, well, last time I checked, 70% of the people who come here were from the rest of the continent. Maybe we should be trying to get the visa freeze there. The problem that most of the people who are here are not the ones you want is the problem of Aaron Motsoaledi. He must fix the borders. Aaron must fix the borders, and Delil must fix the visa and the borders and the visas, and Delil must make them come in floods to this country. That's our job. That's what we need to do. I mean, that's what I loved when I took this. I think I'll finish in a minute. That's what I loved when I went to. I arrived one day from Mauritius in the morning. I called my friend Tike. I said, Tike, let us go to 4 countries in 2 days. He says, huh? Literally, I got off the plane. I went home, swapped suitcases. He says, tickets. I said, Khonale Airport, we are going to buy them at the airport. How are we going to get to 4 countries? We will find out when we land in Zimbabwe, how to get to Botswana, how to get to Namibia, how to get to Zambia, the quadrupoint. And what was interesting about the story is, and which is the point of the slide, is when I landed at Victoria Falls Airport, I said to the guy, I want to see the 4 countries, where the only place in the world where 4 countries meet. How do I get there? He says, it's not your problem. Go and enjoy, go and do the bungee jump. I will call my friend who will meet you at the border of Botswana, or Zambia, I think Botswana, and then they pick me up from there, and then they take me, and then I said, how to go to Namibia? Don't worry, somebody will come take you in a boat, get you into Namibia. I said, then how do I get back to, don't worry, I will do the ferry into Zambia. Because it's collaborations, because you can't do this without collaborations. And we ought to be thinking, don't try and hoard everybody in Gauteng. Rather build collaborations between provinces. Make everybody get to experience South Africa and the contiguous places around us. And that's why we can't wait for this intra-Africa and all those. You know the trends in the area. So I'm not going to speak much about them, but just the technology. I hate it when I arrive at a hotel. I've seen 1 or 2 hotels before. And when I arrive at the hotel and they say, can we please get your name? I'm like, I was in Swaziland on Monday. Then I left the country to go to Lesotho. Then I come back to Swaziland 2 days later because there was an important meeting I had to attend on Monday with the rest of the men. And for that meeting, I arrived at the hotel. They said, can you please complete your form? As I was here 2 days ago. No, sir, you have to start from scratch. And what's the point? Where's technology? What's the point of technology? So we need to upgrade all those things. Trend number 3 does not apply to us, but there are people to whom it applies in the room. Because we are just happy seeing food anywhere, all kinds. I will skip those trends because you know them well. People are worried about economy. These young people, cleanliness, real bro. Nature, wellness, tourism, technology. I'm going to skip all these things because you know them all very well. It's about quality education. It's about sustainability. We're going to talk later with Hapilio about all these things at sand parks and all those things. We need to get our brand up there. Finally, we need to build great brands. And as Thabo Mbeki said at 1998, he says, out of Africa must come new images of an Africa at peace. And this should be in how we build great brands. For the last 13 years, I've been running the top 100 brands in the continent survey that I do. And here's the problem that we have only 17% of the brands that Africans admire are African. We have a problem. We don't like ourselves. We like everything that comes from America, that comes from Europe, that comes from Asia. But if it comes from Africa, we don't like it. Please, can we listen to Fela Kuti song by Africa? By local, sorry. Because the brands that we love, only MTN makes it into the top 10. And you can see everything is not from us. But let me tell you where the brands are, where we do very well. Where we do very well when it comes to brands, Mabati Kuno Chwala, we are there. When they say there's food, we are there. When they say airtime, you will find us. Because you need the airtime to find out where's the nearest Bishabin and the nearest spot to go and eat. Because that's the brands that we are building. We need to do better than that. We need to do what other guys are doing. They're building great brands in auto, in technology, and in fashion. I introduced this study this year. It's about doing good for people, society, and the planet. And in that study, I was quite stunned to see who are the leading brands. Do you know what's interesting about all these studies about brands? We don't see any brands that come from our industry. And our job is to build our properties and brands to come from there. Of course, the other challenge we have in South Africa is more than 60% of the brands which are created in South Africa were created before 1990. We have a problem. We are not building great brands in this country. To close, leadership. Africa needs leadership with clear plans and priorities to overcome its. That's what Zeles Meles always said. And the man is probably powder now because he's moved on to. He received a call from his maker, and he left without us dealing with this little matter here. We always had a plan in 1963, and that plan in 1963 said, open the markets for Africa, create African citizenship. Do your own stuff. What did we do? 2013, we sent JZ's number X to Ethiopia, and she goes there and repackages the same thing and says, Agenda 2063. But you know what politicians do very well? I mean, because none of us will be there in 2063. Because they like to kick the can so far into the future and keep us hoping that we will get there. But it keeps us hopeful. Because the tragedy of this continent, particularly this country, is that we are in the business of canonizing thieves and demonizing its saints. So leadership is about trying to reimagine who we are, because we are not just despots in this continent. What we need in this continent, we don't need strong men, we need strong institutions and strong ideas. As PK said, the development is more about is about more than money and machines or good policies. It's about real people and the lives they lead. Even what we do from tourism is about thinking about that. How are we improving the lives of people? Because our continent is not poor. It's just poorly led. Thank you. The questions.
That's where we're going to next. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We have an opportunity, a quick opportunity for audience questions. I have my roving mics on the side. Just based on time, though, I'm going to allow two. I've got a hand up with the lady here, row 1, 2, 3. And a second hand, do I have a show from anyone? Okay, then that's the single question we are going to take. Where are you? Show yourself. Stand. I'm very short, ne? And today there's no 10-inch heels. Okay, we'll see you, sir. Thank you. If the one other microphone can make its way to the back, keep your hand up, please. Thank you very much.
I'll just let everybody know I was given a lift by Leanne this morning. So I guess the question is payback time.
Thebe, you and I have known each other for 20 odd years or so. We both live and breathe marketing. So if you were CEO, marketing, brand South Africa, leader of South Africa, what is the single USP payoff line that you would tell everybody in the room to use to sell our country out there today?
Oh my goodness, this woman is giving up on the spot. I've just said that I want Nozipo to meet me on the 26th so that I can go help define what is that singular thing that defines us. Because we've been so many things over the years. I've been so many things. But I still think when we positioned ourselves as a life with possibilities, we were in a good spot. Because I think it was such a resilient proposition because it allowed us to have hits and misses and still be hopeful about being able to be better. Because we are that type of country. We are the country that can reimagine itself, a country that is excellent, a country that despite all that's happening around us can still be a great country, and it's still the envy of many. And the things that we've done in the country, building great global brands, great leadership brands like the Mandelas, the Mbekis, and all those things, shows that we are a country that's alive with possibilities. And I think we should find a way around that space of possibility because it keeps us going still. And even from a tourist perspective, you can still run with that because from a tourist perspective, is if you come to this country, it's a country where you can experience the entire world in one trip.
I love that because possibility is hope, and that's what we need as South Africans and as the tourism industry right now is hope. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And then my second question, all the way at the back, if the gentleman can please stand up, give us his name,
all right,
and introduce himself, and then pose his question to Thebe.
All right, thank you very much, Thebe. My name's Makgetha Motswari from Lesotho, the chairperson of Lesotho Council for Tourism. Now, that was so powerful. You see, as one is listening attentively to what you have been saying, not saying but also preaching, yeah? One feels that there is hope for not only South Africa but the rest of Africa. So we believe that surely we shall be there. Now, as I sit down, that is not a question per se. I would love you to talk about Malitsunyane a little bit, because I saw you were there and you were actually marveling at what God has given to us in Lesotho. Say something, man. Thank you.
No. If you don't speak of yourself, right, nobody's going to speak for your country. But last week, I launched the top 100 brands in the continent on the falls. So we went with my friend Pelani Pomanis Lesotho, and I said, we need to announce Lesotho's best brands. Where's the most iconic place to do it? He says, Thebe, let's do it at Malitsuyane Falls. The falls must be in our background. He says, because you see, whenever you're selling the country and its brands, you're also selling the place. He says, that's the beauty of how you bring the three together. So launching it on that stage was just incredible. Anybody who hasn't been to Lesotho, you don't need a passport or a visa. Please do visit. And then drive all the way to Malitsuyane. I'll tell you the story about passports and visa next time we have coffee somewhere. But there's countries I've been to without passports and without visas. We should have visas. But when you travel, that's what you go through. You do things.